Andrew, what about healthcare? While we may see an overall expenditure increase by the government on that area, there are certain pockets of the market that stand to benefit. For instance, if we see further SOPs announced for segments like hospitals.
No, I think the government will continue to focus and spend money on the health sector. I mean, if COVID hasn't taught us something, then it would be pretty poor of us to kind of leave the sector untouched. So I would suspect that we'll continue to see more monies kind of expended towards the health sector. I mean, but we're all going to spend more money anyway going forward. So if we have the infrastructure and it's feasible for the hospitals to expand, then I think that will be great news for us all, right? I just want to touch on the crypto though, because I think it's an important point. In that I do feel that the government will probably make the right moves here, and whether it's a tax as an asset or not, I'm not really that worried. It's more about the missing out part, because we know globally what's happening with NFTs, you know what's going to happen with the meta, and to miss out of that whole development process, of which Indian people, I think, can be at the forefront of all of this, would be a big revenue earner for the government to kind of walk away from. So I think if you look at the bigger picture and just go away and say Bitcoin and buying and selling coins, we're all going to be doing something different in terms of how we buy things in the future, not just through Amazon or anything else. It could well be through the metaverse and other places, which are developing very quickly.
This is so interesting, and I think it's one of the few times that I'm hearing how perhaps crypto can evolve into an actual tangible asset that people consider, and not just a volatile investment bet. Since we are having a conversation with some of the best market minds, have to ask you, in terms of sectors that you feel will dominate in 2022, with or without a slowdown, even with easing liquidity, is it going to be deep cyclicals, export-oriented, urban consumer, manufacturing? What would be your pick? Andrew, let me get your favorites first.
So I said it's more of a barbell approach, Dava. I mean, the telecom sector, digitization, 5G, 6G, all to do with the metaverse and everything, I think is going to play out, very strongly over the next 1 to 2 years. Within the banking sector, I'm probably, less bullish. I think there's a lot of disruption going on, not only in the private banks, but with obviously newcomers coming in as well. So I think it's going to be a struggle, to be honest, for the financial sector. So I'd rather kind of go more towards the insurance and asset management companies. That's probably where I think that the things will play out better. And in terms of the kind of local economy, obviously I've mentioned hotels and airlines, I think will do well. And within the autos, look for those auto part suppliers to the EV industry. They're cheap, and they've got a lot of catching up to do. So those are the kind of broad themes I would play at this point. I mean, again, defensive, more pharma, but I'd probably have IT and telecom there more than pharma at this stage.
All right, got it. That's a nice comprehensive list. Nilesh, what about you?
We'll continue to kind of have a bottom-up approach. Look for companies which you believe are going to do extremely well across these 4 pockets, which is basically deleveraging-led capex. Clearly, that's going to be one big, powerful area where I see continued sustained growth momentum. The second essentially is demand-led businesses, be it across urban or rural demand. The third is digitization. I clearly believe that a lot of especially consumer-led businesses are powered by technology and digitization and could sustain basically pretty strong growth going forward. And the last is around decarbonization, which broadly is around renewables, electric vehicles, and those kind of opportunities. So clearly, like these 4 pockets, and of course these are pockets which have done well in 2021, and I believe that this will continue to be the course for 2022 and even beyond 2022.
Fantastic. Mahesh, closing comments from you.
Yeah, so just I think continuing, I think broader theme, I think if you look at for going forward would be domestic cyclical. I think India's recovery has still been lagging behind, but I think you should see that there are enough legs for economic recovery to really improve, even as global growth slows down a bit. So domestic cyclicals, so be it banking and financials, okay, where you will see credit growth pick up, credit costs will come down, valuations are reasonable, so that looks to be a good sector to do well. Real estate is another sector which has kind of come out, okay, after almost 6-7 years of a down cycle, and the conditions are really good in terms of interest rates. The affordability gap has come down. There's a lot of organized players coming into that space, so that sector could also have a good cycle for the next 2-3 years, and all the sectors linked to that should do well. And finally, I think the whole, while it's still early days in terms of revival of the private sector capex, but the way the government focused on manufacturing, the whole PLI schemes, the China Plus One policy, I think we are seeing some green shoots on the capex front. Companies are talking about it. So if I take a 2-3 year view, I think industrials, okay, could be the sector to watch out for, which again has been in the last 5-6 years, hasn't seen much of a growth. Whole investments to GDP has collapsed. I think we will see a revival of that going forward. So all in all, I would say that I mean, we are more positive on domestic recovery if we take a 2-3 year view, and I think that's where the growth could surprise in the coming years.